The Ball, sampled and modelled on the infamous and iconic Taurus from Moog, is a foot pedal oriented bass synth with real bite and aggression and just so much character. If we take a look at the interface, you can see that it's basically a 3D rendering of the Ball, or the Taurus from Moog, and the main controls here allow you to switch between the actual presets that are available from the instrument, sampled from the actual presets as well, so you get these really quirky, interesting and nuanced and unique sound of these presets that are unique to this particular version of this instrument, because it's an old analog beast, so it's just so characterful and interesting and fun to play. So we have bass, tuba and the Ball, which of course was called Taurus originally. Then the variable control not only opens up the sculpting possibilities of the top panel here, allowing you access to a loudness envelope, which is basically an amp envelope, then a filter section with cutoff and emphasis, which is resonance in kind of contemporary synth terminology. Then the contour series here is the envelope. So we have an envelope amount, envelope attack, and envelope decay to further sculpt your sound, as well as being able to blend between two different sound sources on variable via the A/B slider, as well as some fine tuning parameters for those sounds. If we are in the presets from bass, tuba or the Ball, then we also have access to the global loudness control, which is global for the entire instrument, and then the local filter slider, which is specific to the 3 key presets. We also have a glide button, which is also global to all 3 presets and the variable control, with the glide slider here setting the amount of the glide. Then finally a decay, and that decay is local to the 3 presets because variable has its own built-in decay on both the loudness or amp envelope and the filter envelope itself. Okay, so jumping into the presets, we have bass. Probably my favorite preset. It's kind of my go-to. It's such a warm and round and moogy bass sound. I love it. Of course, we can use the filter slider in conjunction with this or assign it to a MIDI controller parameter and use that. Very cool. Okay, on to tuba. It's a rounder sound. It's got some kind of biting energy underneath, but there is very clearly also a lot of kind of cut-off filtering going on to create a kind of warm yet biting texture. It's actually a really cool sound. What's interesting about this one is because this is sampled from a real old vintage analog beast, is we get this kind of higher range, almost vibrato texture that kind of comes in. That's probably a quirk of the instrument, of that particular instrument, but as a result, it just adds so much character to this sound. Let's take a listen. So we have this low range. When we get up into the higher range, and it just sings, it just starts to sing. It's great, I love it. Apply this global filter. It's also available. Okay, onto the Ball. Best suited for kind of long, slow bass lines because there is an element of attack and decay. There's kind of a story to every note here, as found in the original preset. A with this kind of like biting fight between the voices. It's really great. Okay, so if we move into variable now, we gain access to this top row of sliders, but we also gain access to an additional 2 octaves of range. This is because on the actual original version, you have kind of switches to move through the octaves with the variable controls. So of course that's clunky. So what we've done is we sampled all of that and then applied it to the actual range on the keyboard. So when you go into variable, you gain these extra 2 octaves of accessible notes. Now, when you're in this mode, if we were to switch to, let's go to one of our snapshots here and pull up just the starting point voice A. So this is with everything pretty much turned up to the max. So the cutoff is all the way up. The emphasis is down. There's no envelopes affecting the sound. The sustain level's all the way up and there's no attack or decay to the loudness either. And we've got just sound A. So we've got this very aggressive, biting and bright sound. It's quite cool just on its own. But now we can start to sculpt this sound using our top controls. The glide button, of course, is global, so we can use that as well. Let's just check that out before we move on. Very cool indeed. Okay, turning that back off, we now have the ability to blend between A and B. So here's A, here's B. They're ever so slightly out of tune with one another. So when we bring them in, if we start from A, that's cool. Okay, so we're getting this real kind of clash of the titans here and getting that really fat, warm, bright and strong Moogy sound. As we move through now, we can adjust these parameters. Oscillator B has a different frequency control. So maybe you can find a 5th there. Super aggressive. You might want to fine tune that with the shift control, but we'll find one that's basically in tune with one another. Very cool. Now as we go through into the loudness, like I said, this is an envelope for the amp basically. So if we turn up the attack massively, we will get a slow build up. Okay, then bring that back down and head over to the cutoff, which I currently have linked to one of the sliders on this keyboard. Bring the emphasis up, which is basically the same as resonance, we'll get that kind of whistling top end of the filter cutoff. Very cool. And if we want to create some form of modulation like that for ourselves, we can use the contour and mount. Awesome. Okay, so that's the variable controls. There's a real wealth of possibilities here from a sound sculpting perspective, and all completely true to the original instrument. It is the authentic experience. Everything feels like it should with the actual instrument in your hands. Okay, let's go back to the bass preset and let's go through to these other settings. So on Polystep, we have ourselves a basic Polystep sequencer. We have plenty of other videos on how our Polystep sequencer works, but you have up to 6 patterns that can all work either in solo or in tandem to create incredibly complex rhythmic structures. We then have an arpeggiator up next, which again is a pretty standard arpeggiator, but we have loads of directions as well. This really comes into its own if you use it with in conjunction with the variable parameter, because you gain access to that additional range stage. So here we can really go up into the octaves. Cool. Okay, let's switch into bass and head off to the effects section. It's a nice little bite to the end of those notes. Chorus. Delay. Cool, and then a reverb with your kind of standard selection of convolutions on offer. Okay, so finally, there are a series of presets that you can start with in the form of snapshots. They're just 20 small kind of starting points really to get you going. Ultimately with this instrument, it's about jumping in and just going headfirst into creating your own sounds. But we have a series here of kind of the simple bass, no decay, or simple bass with decay or with glide, along with some A-B blends, variable snarling bite. As opposed to a variable A-B blend with glide. And then some up variations in there as well, like bass with polystep. All the way down to just some simple bass. If you want to just get straight back to that preset, it's right there. Great. Okay, that has been an in-depth look at the Ball, our take on the Moog Taurus, an awesome and powerful biting and snarling bass synthesizer. Head to insanitysamples.com for more information, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.